Hi.
Hey, are we ready, Peter?
We're ready. Yeah.
Okay, all righty. Well, welcome everybody. I'm going to start by just reading the Ethics Act statement. It is the duty of the committee members to avoid conflicts of interest and appearances of conflicts of interest in performing the duties as a member of the Communications Committee and the North Carolina State Bar Council. Any member of the committee who is aware of any personal conflicts or appearances thereof with respect to the matters before this committee should disclose those at the meeting. So, hey guys, so I don't know if everyone heard, but we don't quite have a quorum, which means we're going to skip over approval of the minutes until we have a quorum or at the next meeting. So that takes us on the agenda to the next thing, which is an update on current projects. The first one being website.
Yeah. So, we've been still trying to decide on which way we wanted to go on the website. It's been pushed back as we are in the middle of migrating all of our servers and all of that and web servers and all that stuff out of our current managed services providers data center and into the Azure cloud. And so we're in this middle of this migration project, and anyone who's had to deal with anything like that knows that we're just concerned about unforeseen costs and time and trying to make sure that we prioritize getting that done before we make any big adjustments to the website. In the interim, what we are doing is trying to determine the best vendor to go to. We've met a few times. We are reaching out to the state agencies that are using the state's IT, the NCDIT's web platform. That is one of the choices that we're looking at. We're reaching out to those with some survey questions to try to gauge their experience, if they liked the process and would recommend going that route. Hopefully, when we hear back from them and get together and meet again, we'll be able to make our final determination on where we're going to go with the website. And I think that what we talked about at the last meeting was that we would wait to send out some sort of survey to the membership until we learn from that vendor, what they recommend, and their when they consult with us on first steps, what they would recommend and how we should send that stuff out, and if they have more expertise in this area, so we can refine that survey. So we're just put that on hold and probably have some decisions to make about that next quarter on kind of sending, finalizing a survey to send out and getting that sent out. We'll be able to move on that next quarter as well.
Can I ask a quick question about that?
Sure.
And this is probably a very basic question, but in terms of spending money and like getting bids and stuff, state agency websites, my limited use of them are generally not great. And I think, do we take into account when we're looking at this, like maybe having to spend more upfront to get a better website that would last us longer rather than like a clunker, which is going to hop along till the next whatever.
Right. I think that's part of the decision factor here is while the state agency route, with the DIT route comes at a much cheaper cost, essentially free hosting and all those things that have a real benefit, and the security that comes with being hosted inside the DIT's system. You have to weigh that against that independence and creative independence that you would have if you did this through a private vendor. And so that's what we're trying to determine and weigh against each other. If moving to DIT, if the benefits outweigh what we give up in terms of our kind of independence and the ability to have maybe a high-end website.
Right.
But
because,
when you look,
well, just because I get, that's the balance. And in this day and age of everything online, I'm just thinking of our members and how much, it's not so much fancy website, but ease of use website, because everything we do now is, checking your, CLE, all that's so website driven that to make our members happy. I can just see like on a daily basis, if someone logs into an easier, more navigable website, that's one less thing they can curse us for in general. And I just feel like that's
Right.
perhaps money well spent, even if it.
Right. I mean, all of the portal and stuff that we have built and have now, none of that will change regardless of where we go. That's all hosted by our regulatory management developer. It's really going to be about ease of use, about finding rules and finding ethics opinions and tracking disciplinary hearings and the rule amendment process and all of those kind of things that you can do on our website, finding forms, all those kind of things. And, you know, when you look at some, there are some sites that have, that are through this digital commons platform through the DIT that, you know, big agencies like the Department of Revenue, Health and Human Services, all of them are in this platform and have made it work. Now, whether or not it works better than what you would want could get from a private vendor is, you know, that's the real question. And, you know, trying to figure out some of the bids we got from other vendors are quite hefty. And can you justify that cost when the alternative is a lot lower? That's the tough decision that we're trying to make.
So who makes the decision? So is it kind of you and Alice, or who ultimately? Or
yeah. So
council?
We've been meeting right now. Preliminarily, it's Alice, me, our IT guy, Brian, and Jennifer Duncan, who kind of handles the website stuff now, are the ones who've been meeting about this to try to determine what the best way is to go on it.
Got it. At the end of the day, though, when you guys have a recommendation, how does that work? Does it come to the council for us to vote, or how does that even work?
I don't think this would require a council vote on something like this. Is kind of an internal operations decision on how it would go. But certainly if there's input or thoughts on which way to go, we'd love to hear it.
Okay.
If you want to go in your free time and go onto the DIT site and look up the sites that use the digital commons platform and kind of browse around and see if you think that they would be that it would be workable for us, or have thoughts on things you like or don't like about it, I think that would be helpful.
Okay. Great.
I was just going to add that, you know, one of the things that, you know, as much as we are trying to evaluate what vendor to go with and all that, we're still prioritizing some of the feedback that we've already received. And I know I'm thinking about Meredith, something you brought up early on, that a lot of people, including internally, bring up a search function. We need an outstanding and effective search function, both for ethics opinions, rules, disciplinary orders, things of that nature. For whatever reason, it seems like our search function on our current website has gotten worse over the years. I remember when it first launched, it worked to some extent, although it was still very limited. And it's gotten just worse. I don't know what's going on with it, but at this point, we're looking to, you know, move on to a different platform. So we're going to just look for the future there. But we're still prioritizing those things based upon early feedback, as well as, you know, our own experience as well. So want you all to know that we're putting the right things at the forefront of our considerations.
Thanks. Any questions about the website? Anything else about that, Peter, or you want to move on to message mapping?
No, I don't think there's anything else to add on that.
Okay.
Message map, Brian, I know that we got good feedback from the committee at the last meeting and kind of instructed us not to do too much additional work on it. So we're just going to try to finalize that so we can end up disseminating that and getting that in the counselors' or like handbook, orientation guide stuff for 2020 for the 2024. So that's something that can be just disseminated out that everyone will have access to, and we'll have a final product for you guys to kind of approve officially in October, so it can be put into the handbook and all the materials for the January meeting.
Great. So I guess the next topic, which is the big one for today, is how to communicate the new CLE rules.
Yes, so the Supreme Court approved essentially all of the rules that we adopted in April. They turned them around quickly, and now the big changes are approved and will become effective on March of 2024. So we need to get this message out to lawyers and sponsors frequently between now and then, so we can be sure that they are all aware of all of their new requirements, and particularly that their requirements for 2023 haven't changed, and that they will still have to do an annual report for 2023. All of the things that we need to tell them, and in addition to having stuff in the journal, which I'm sure we will, and more notices, just trying to get some feedback from you on what your districts and members, how they would want to get this information, and which ways, and what kind of communications, whether it's mailings or emails or videos, that we should be planning to put out.
I had maybe a preliminary question, Peter, which is, I know when we added the technology CLE, that, there was a lot. Was there a communication plan? I think I was on the communications committee and I remember talking about it, but I can't remember if we had a formal plan. But it just seems we can definitely talk about ideas here, but I thought that was pretty well done. I think by the end, everyone kind of knew about that. So to the extent there's a playbook there that we can go to, or what we did, my perception was that was a pretty good rollout, and I think people knew in advance. And I think a lot of people did find out from CLE providers saying, "Hey, don't forget you've got your new technology requirement." And I expect there'll be some of that this time. Although, again, some of these claims some of the changes this year are more structural, so there may be less. It may not be the same monetary incentive to say, here's a new class per se that you need to sign up for. But I just wanted to maybe think a little bit, because I thought that was well done.
Yeah, I don't think we had a kind of a concrete plan. I think we probably did an e-blast, and then the sponsors obviously rolled with it too, and got information out. It was in the e-bar and in the journal. And then the advantage that we had with that one is we also kind of gave everybody a grace year after, that first year we didn't do anything with anybody who didn't do their technology, because of the making sure everyone, at least had a year to know that was going to be the case, which is going to be a little harder to do that this time. We didn't do a video, or we didn't do kind of a separate mailing or any kind of infographic kind of one pager or anything like that. But it seemed like the word got around pretty good on that. And I think, a lot of lawyers, I would imagine by now, since we spent about a year and a half on this, if they've looked at all at the journal or anything online, they know that we've been looking at this, and that these rules are being amended, and now that we can say that they have been and approved, I would hope that the word will spread like wildfire again once it gets out there to the sponsors and all the different people that would want to share this information. But I think we need to make sure we're covered, in the sense that we feel comfortable that we've tried to notify all the lawyers as best we can about these new big changes.
Do we have like a thing that you could send us, that we could send out to our local bar, that's just like effective 20, so that just has the basic, like effective 2020 March 20, and here are the new, attached a PDF of the new rules? Is that something that exists that you could email to us?
No, well, that's something that we can create. I mean, I have ones that we did one page kind of info sheets while the process was going. We haven't changed it to kind of, this is what's happening and when. I think that seems like a clear, an obvious one that we should do, kind of just a bulletin sheet that explains all of this, and that can be given to the counselors and then, also sent out to the lawyers. I would imagine everyone here probably thinks that that would deserve its own separate e-blast or email
Yeah.
to send all that stuff out. Okay.
And yeah, and even with a bullet point and an effective date, if we could attach the actual new rules, then you can I can see myself sending that over and over and over again, getting.
Or hyperlinking. I love.
Yeah, whatever. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. I'm like, yes, thank you. PDF, yeah. Yeah, whatever way, just so, because I can see myself getting calls. I'm sure we will, what are the rules? And if I can just shoot an email that has got everything, that'd be nice.
Peter, this is Gina, I would also suggest that we look at the NCBA seminars that are coming up in the fall and find out who's in charge of them and get the information to them so that when they are standing there in front of 300 family law specialists, they can say, actually, that's happening this weekend, I guess. So we'll miss that opportunity. But, here's what's happening, guys. So at every CLE that happens, regardless of who's putting it forth in the fall, I think that should be an oral message. I think that Anna's right. We need to get it in the local district bar newsletters, and then obviously get the Bar Association and the state bar to send out e-blasts. I think that with all of this electronic communication coming at all of us now, where we used to get a couple hundred emails a day, we're now getting many, many more than a couple hundred emails a day. So it's easy to ignore them. So I think it's got to come at us from all different directions in all different forums. Some people ignore the state bar and drink at the hose of the Bar Association every day, all day long. So I think we got to go at it from all those places.
We're on the same wavelength, Gina, because I was thinking the same thing. If we could develop even like a very short paragraph, at the beginning of every CLE where they read the announcements, if we could provide that to the CLE providers, the big CLE providers, and just ask them to incorporate that into their announcements at the beginning of every CLE, if we can do that over the course of several months or, a year before it takes effect, then, everybody will have had to take some CLE within that time. So that would be a good way to get that out as well.
That sounds like a great idea. Does anyone see any value in a postcard mailing that maybe has a QR code on it or something that people could use to go look at the new rules? Is that a waste of money, or does that cover us in a way? Look, you might not be checking your email, but we at least mailed you something as well to your address.
You know what I would like to know the ages of all the lawyers, because somebody's 58 or older like me. I'm 58. I like stuff that's in paper still. I pay more attention to it, but I imagine that I'm a dinosaur and that most of the people that we need to communicate this with are, 30 years old and don't even open things that come to them in paper. Of course, a postcard, you don't have to.
That's just what I was about to say, is if we could do a mail merge of everybody who's, born in before 1971 or what, I don't know.
Yeah, cost benefit analysis, though. I mean, the cost of the mailing, it might get a few people that wouldn't otherwise, find it elsewhere, but I would be concerned about whether it's really worth the cost of a mail. I don't know how much of that would be, but it seems to me that a huge mailing could be quite expensive. And I would say on like the email blasts and stuff, you want to make sure, because I think Gina mentioned it about, the hundreds and maybe even thousands of emails that we all get. But if you title it right, so that the title, because I see them, and some of them, when I'm trying to delete through what I consider spam, but if in the title line it is, new CLE rule effective, March 2024, then that's likely to catch my eye and I'm going to click into that. So planning the email blasts well and making sure on like the very first thing that comes up when people look to scan through their emails, that catches people's eye, I think would be important too.
And I
I
just
agree
thought
with
of,
that.
I just thought of a way to do what Meredith just suggested. We don't need to know about birthdays, but we can do bar numbers. My bar number is 19036, and I've been practicing law for 30 years. So maybe we start there or at 20,000 or whatever, and everybody with a bar number below that needs to get something in mail, and nobody with a bar number above that needs to get anything in mail.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little concerned about doing something like that in terms of kind of due process there, where like if we're sending it to the older lawyers and then that someone, younger says, well, I didn't know about this,
Well, let me ask
you didn't mail me anything. I
Well,
don't
we
know.
emailed it to you 3 or 4 times, buddy.
Right.
I don't think you need to worry about that, but
So is maybe it's a simple, if the mail, can you find out how much the postcards are? And if it's.
Yeah, we've
500
sent,
versus-
we send them, we still send postcards for the membership dues. And so I'll be able to figure out that amount.
And then can we also this is a really dumb question because I'm the dinosaur as well. Can you email a QR code?
Well, I think email, yeah, you could, but it would also just be a hyperlink or
Right.
something. Yeah.
Right, I got you.
hyperlink, yeah.
Okay. So,
Tom, I think Tom had his
I think
hand
if-
and then Mark. Yeah.
I think if you're going to continue to publish within the journal this notice of the updated rules, I think that would be the place to put a QR code within the journal itself. And then if you're going to be sending emails, an email blast, and I think the hyperlink is probably the best source. And if you're going to, as Mark mentioned, have, CLE rules, new CLE rules for idiot lawyers, then maybe you have other hyperlinks to those documents that you're going to, the go-bys. This is how you do it. This is the focus. So it's not, and then I think if we counselors can, I can send that out as well from where I sit to the bar in my district on multiple occasions. Hey, just a reminder, guys, that this is, and here's a hyperlink to the rules. Here's a hyperlink to some shortcut rules to undertake to make sure you're following the updated rules as they come into play. I think the coverage will be sufficient. I think as a prosecutor, work hand in hand with the Conference of District Attorneys, work hand in hand with the Bar Association, to do those things and get that information out. Because I get a ton of unsolicited emails, even as a state employee, from those individuals who are getting my emails through the Bar Association and so forth. So I think we can have plenty of coverage from that perspective, without overdoing it. I think I agree with you. I think either you send a card to everybody or you send it to nobody and rely upon these other direct communiques that we're talking about from the state bar, from individual counselors, and things of that nature.
Mark? I'm not hearing you, Mark.
Sorry, I agree.
Okay.
I agree with Tom. I think trying to make an age break or a bar number break is potentially problematic. I do think we have a proxy for that, though, in that some people still elect to receive, the journal in hard copy, and some people only get it electronically. And I think, as long as it's in the journal, my suggestion would be that it be on the cover of one of the, upcoming journal editions, highlighting it. I do think there are a lot of people that look at the cover and may not go through. So I think dedicating cover space to the new CLE requirements is a good way to highlight it for people that are not checking emails or getting the mail. So obviously that may be a publications discussion, but I would think it's worth doing it maybe the December type issue, the last issue of the year, give people notice that things are changing for 2024 would be good. Are there other things, Peter, that we actually mail to some folks and not others? Like, I know most of the current CLE forms and stuff are online. Are there some people that still do hard copy CLE reports and those kind of things? I guess if we had that kind of list and people got other things in the mail, we could send them a reminder, but I think all that's electronic, right?
Yeah, we've essentially moved to all paperless except for when we do the membership dues, we send out a postcard in December to anybody who hasn't already paid that first week. We send a postcard just telling them about the dues being available. And that's another spot that we could put a little bullet point about the CLE rules on that postcard, and also in the membership dues payment process. So when that becomes available in December, we could put a link during that process, say, hey, just be aware of the new CLE rules. Here's a link to be able to go look at that. And everyone will have to go on that at some point to pay their 2024 dues to get some info there. I don't know. I'll ask Jennifer Duncan as well. And I don't know what the feasibility is of it, about some kind of loose insert in the journal. Like if there's, if you could put like the one pager kind of, so it kind of stands out when you get the journal. It either comes out or, you see it right away instead of it being hidden. But if that's not feasible, obviously I agree. I think putting it in big words on the cover, everyone at least sees the cover once, knowing that it's there.
All right. Well, that sounds good. Well, I guess what we could say at this point is maybe at the bar meeting next week, Peter, or week after next, in terms of any other ideas about how to communicate the CLE rules. I don't know if you want to, I can mention it at the council meeting on Friday, if anybody wants to send ideas, or if you want to ask anybody else and whatever you guys want to do.
And I'll try to put together the one-page info sheet and put it on SharePoint before the meeting. So that way you can tell people that this is here, please share this, throughout the rest of the year. One of the big things people will need to know is whether they have to do 1 year of 12 hours or if they are in the 2-year 24 for this next year, because we're staggering it. So this, there'll be this 1 year where half of the lawyers have to do just their regular 1 year 12-hour requirement. And it's going to be people that have, and if you have an odd number year of admittance, the year, the last digit of the year you were admitted, if it's odd, you will be doing 1 year 12 hours for 2024. If it's even, it's going to be right to 2 years, because that way we bring in anybody who's licensed in 2024 starts right at 2 years and they don't have to jump around. So it's going to end up being odd and even on the year that you were admitted. And I ran the numbers yesterday, and there's only about a 400 lawyer difference between those two groups. And so it's pretty much half the bar, just as we had hoped.
Can you add that to the one-page thing you're going to create? Because I think that'll be a huge.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
That's going to be a key one that we'll have to do, and what their requirements are for that year.
Okay.
And Peter, I know I'm a broken record on the specialization thing, but does your bullet point also say, if you're a specialist, you got to keep in mind that this rule doesn't affect those rules?
The one that I've already made does have that on there, and I'll make sure, try to make sure that that's still on there as well, that information. Yeah.
And then the board of specialization will want to make that their baby, that they communicate to everybody. Please don't lose your certification because you forgot that our rules are different than the state bar rules.
Yeah, and Gina, we've got that. We've sent that out in our specialist newsletter before, but now that these are official, there's a plan to send that out again with, because
Yeah.
I think this is that point of, it's not just a one and done, it's hammering this message to make sure everyone's aware. And even to the point, there's kind of another indirect message here that I think is best communicated through the counselors. And that's when folks have questions, yes, talk to your counselor, but don't be afraid of calling the bar. This isn't a gotcha moment. This is an intended change to improve everyone's flexibility and the administration of the program, all these different things. Hopefully folks will see this actually was better. And I think they will, based upon feedback from other states. But if there's questions, call the bar, because we're all trying to facilitate and help each other out.
Okay, I have a question about that, and this is just me. When you call the bar about your CLE, you get routed to CLE. So it's like, that's what we really should be telling people to call, right? I mean, call the CLE division of the bar.
Yeah, for particular questions, yeah, that would be the best place to go. If it's just a question about the rules, I'm still available at this point. I'm the most up to date on all of that. As the rules are rolling out, once they roll out next year, CLE will be well versed in all of the new rules too. But
Okay,
if there's anything in the interim or anything, that you can always give them my email address too.
okay, great,
Um,
great.
And I think, what Brian and I do a lot of CLEs. We'll continue to, add these to anything that we do when we make presentations, when we do our annual review for the Bar Association. That is part of that expert series. We typically record that in December. And so we'll talk about that then. And this is another thing that we can, it's not just 2023. I mean, we can continue to harp on this in early 2024 as well as the rules take effect, because they won't have any requirements due under the rules until the end of 2024. So, we'll have time to continue to make them aware of all of this stuff. And this includes, getting information out to sponsors. We'll have to do that too. I think that's going to be key to let them know about these changes, and including the new types of the fee structure and all of that stuff needs to be, we got to get this notice out probably beginning, this month, and then all the way up and through until the dues for 2024 are posted, because that's going to include the $25 annual CLE attendance fee that lawyers will pay. And you don't want that to be the first time that they learn of the rules when they see that fee in their on their invoice. So we'll want to get that information out sooner than later.
Right. Great. Any other questions or thoughts on CLE rules?
So we'll put together this list that you guys have all done, and we'll try to put this into kind of an action plan, and I'll try to have that action plan and the info sheet available to you guys to look at for the Asheville meeting, and then that way we can carry that out, and you guys can share that information sheets with your members.
Thank you. Somebody was going to say something. I'm sorry. Who was that?
Oh, I was just laughing about all the calls Tammy's going to get for people that didn't pay their $25 CLE fee because they didn't understand it. Because I'm on the administrative committee, and they wear that girl out, and this is just going to be tenfold.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the best part. We're not going to let them pay their dues without paying that $25 fee. So, it'll all be built in. It's like you don't have the choice to not pay your client security fund fee. You got to pay it. So it'll all be there. And but we don't want that to be so surprising that they are freaking out saying that this was a big dues increase. They need to understand what that fee is and how it's actually saving them money in the long run versus paying those credit hour CLE fees that a lot of lawyers have to pay for each hour that they are taking, whether that's through their sponsor or individually to the bar.
Got it. So anything else on CLE rules?
I think we got a good guy. You guys have given us kind of good guidance here on what you want us to do. And I'll
Okay.
get with Jennifer Duncan on the journal stuff and
Okay.
get this all started.
Sounds good. And then the last thing on the agenda is any new business.
I don't think we have any new business. The one we talked about last quarter about the printing of the lawyer handbook and doing that internal. So we did that. We created a sample copy here internally, and we'll be able to print those for anyone who needs it on our staff or at the DHC, those kinds of things. But the idea kind of going forward would be to maintain the electronic version of the handbook and maybe figure out whether or not we want to have an annual handbook that's actually the 2023 or the 2024 handbook, or just have the lawyer's handbook that is constantly updated as soon as something is changed. And so you don't have, all these different annual copies, and we can just have a list of, what has changed each year so people can just have one link that they know this is going to take me to the handbook, whatever the current stuff is.
I mean, that makes way more sense, don't you think? The second one, just where you're constantly updating it, because then you can always just know I'm going to go search and I don't have to worry about.
Yeah. The only issue is trying to figure out what rules were in effect at a time that something happened, so you have to have some way to know what has changed and see some kind of
Gotcha.
history. But other than that, it should be fine. Yeah.
Mhm. And I guess that's just something you guys are how does that work? Is ethics in charge of deciding that, or?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
no,
we're
we
going to
just
talk
have
about
to-
it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an archiving matter, and it really comes up in the disciplinary process more than anything.
Mhm.
What rules actually in effect when the conduct was committed. So, but yeah, we'll have to just archive that. We have that now. We have all those old handbooks online. I don't know if anybody's gone back to see. We go back as far as 2001 or 2002, and so we'll just have to figure out a new way to track that.
Sounds good. All right, well, Peter, you thought this was gonna last 30 to 45 minutes, and is there any other new business? Or anything
Yeah, I
else?
think we're just short of a quorum. I think we ended up with 9.
Oh.
So we'll just hold off on the minutes until the next meeting.
Okay, sounds good. All right, well, thank you guys. Oh, did you have something, Gina?
No,
Okay.
I'll say peace.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Okay, well, thanks, guys. We'll just adjourn then. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you
we'll see
very much for your
after.
help. We'll see you in a
Take
couple
care.